In this video, we will talk about how to assign a geographic coordinate system to a CAD file. Now, there are many benefits of assigning a geographic coordinate system to the CAD file. Number one is, let's say you had this geometry that's out there and it was flown or shot in through survey with one coordinate system, and then you had another file that maybe somebody else surveyed but they used a different coordinate system. Well, if you apply the correct coordinate system to both of those files, if you reference those in using the attachment tools, you could reference those two files in and they would land correctly if the CAD program knows what coordinate system is being used for each one of those. So that's one benefit of it. Another benefit is you can use other applications to maybe take this geometry and place it somewhere else. Let's say you want to create a KML file, which is a Google Earth file. As long as you have the correct coordinate system applied to this, you can actually take this geometry and export it out to a KML, which then you can actually bring that geometry into Google Earth and see that the MicroStation geometry over top of that Google Earth imagery. And also inside of this CAD file here, you can also use Bing Maps or another imagery that we had, which is called WMS imagery, to use that inside the CAD file. But first and foremost, you have to have the correct coordinate system applied to the file. Now, to get to your geographic tools, we're going to use these tools right here. And we're going to select this main one right here that says coordinate system. And you'll get this box right here. And to simply assign one, you'd come in here and do from library. And once you have that open, you're going to have some different options through here. You got the MoDOT geographic coordinate systems, which those are some of the default ones that you can use. Most of the time with the geometry that is surveyed or flown in Missouri is probably going to be on a state plane system, which is going to be central, east, or west. You also have these other ones through here, and these are a little bit older ones, and these may be used if it's an older project. And then you have some UTM systems that could be utilized, which aren't used very often, but they are there. Then you also have some modified ones, and in certain districts they actually have a county-wide projection factor applied for each one of these coordinate systems. So let's say this project here was done in Miller County. If you select it, you're going to see over here to the side there's actually a projection factor applied to that particular project, which is this A1 parameter and B2 parameter. And you can see that if you go to different counties, it has a different projection factor applied to it. That just helps get the actual survey or the coordinates down a lot tighter. So it depends on the project. It may be a state plane system that they used, or if it's hillier terrain and stuff like that, or if it's a longer project, they may have actually used a custom coordinate system for that particular project. And that's just something that you'd have to ask the surveyor of what coordinate system that they used, whether it's just a standard state plane system or if they use some other modified factor, whether it's a county-wide factor or it could be a project factor that can be used. And we will talk about how to create your own user-defined coordinate system in a separate video, where if you actually had the number that was given to you through survey, let's say this A1 parameter and B2 parameter, you can actually create your own coordinate system for that certain project. But like I said, we'll talk about that in a separate video. And that's what this user-defined one is right here. And then you also have the library, which has all the coordinate systems that are provided through Bentley. And if you want to look at those at your own leisure, you can go right ahead. But the ones that we've always used are these right through here for the state plane systems, or if there's a modified factor, you'd probably use one of these. And like I said, there's some from the Central District that they use for a county-wide projection factor, and then also in the St. Louis area. So I know on this particular project right here, it's using a modified factor, and it's using this NAD 83 2011. So if I expand this out, and I go down to this one right here, which this is in Miller County, I'll go ahead and select it. I know this is the actual coordinate system that's used for this project, and then if I hit on OK, it applies the coordinate system to that file. So that's the only thing that you would need to do, is to go in there, select this little icon right here that says from library, and then scroll through there and find the coordinate system that is used for that particular project. If it's not in here, you'll probably have to create a user-defined coordinate system, which we'll talk about that in a separate video. So that's how to assign a coordinate system to a MicroStation file. Now, we used the from library, and that's the one that you'd probably use most often, but there are some other ones underneath here. You got from reference, you got to reference, you got from file. So let's say you had a file that you assigned a coordinate system to already, or maybe you had some other file that was given to you and it had a coordinate system applied to it. Well, you can actually use that particular coordinate system and apply it to this file, and that's what the from file does. This just gives you the edit reprojection settings, which you can look at some of those. Most of those we don't mess with, but you can look at those at your own leisure. And then the last one is if you want to remove the coordinate system from the file. Now, one thing about applying a coordinate system to the file is it's not going to do anything to your geometry once you've applied one like what we have right here. So once you apply it, it's just telling MicroStation that this was the coordinate system that was used. Now it can use some other applications like exporting it to Google Earth or using the Bing Maps. It tells the program it knows what coordinate system that was used. Now it can possibly use some other applications. So that's assigning a geographic coordinate system to a MicroStation file.